Hey everybody, this is Ben here at That Cologne Guy coming at you with a new top 10. I'm enjoying these actually. Really enjoy stepping away from reviewing single fragrances, and I'm absolutely having a wonderful time with the top 10 lists. This top 10 list is brought to you by Elin in Malaysia. Thank you so much, Elin. I really appreciate that. She mentioned this list as wanted to see my top 10 and for iris fragrances, and here it is. I just finished doing the short version of this episode, and I did say Irish once, so we're going to count how many times I say Irish instead of iris, but we shall see. Anyway, thank you so much for the suggestion, Elin. I really appreciate it. Before I dive into the top 10 iris-based fragrances, I can, of course, not commence before welcoming you, all the new subscribers since last Friday. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And here is the question that begs to be asked. When and where will Dior Homme appear on my list? Stay tuned and find out. All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's dive in. I'm going to give you 10 categories, 10 fragrances, top 10, voila, of iris-based fragrances. And you guys know my relationship with iris is tenuous at best. And so I actually would say, though, that is kind of good in the sense that anyone can do a list of notes that you absolutely love. You know, I can't wait to do one on neroli, for example, or teak wood, guaiac wood. I can't wait to do an episode on some of the notes that I absolutely adore. But you know what? There's a certain, I think it's also kind of cool to do one on a note that you don't necessarily immediately look to and seek out. Because on this list, the ones that make it down to my top 10 really, really have to be good. That's my best attempt anyway. But you guys know that some of the iris, some of the makeup smell doesn't really work for me. But I hope you enjoy this list. I put a lot of time and effort into creating different categories. See, when I started watching these videos years ago on with other cologne reviewers, they would do a top 10. And they'd say, like, okay, I'm not going to number them. And I would say, oh, come on, right? Make it 10, make it 9. But now I realize why they did that. And that's because I prefer to see it in terms of categories. In this list, I have some men's, I have some unisex, and I have some women's. But I like to talk more about it in terms of different categories as opposed to the actual number where it sits in the top 10. It's next to impossible, actually. Once you make it into my top 10, that's all that you need to know. All right, so let's dive in. The first category has to be, of course, honorable mention. And I went back and forth on this one and then the next category, but I'm going to settle with my honorable mention as Lolita Lempicka by Lolita Lempicka. Of course, by one of my favorite parfumers, which is Annick Menardo, who officially can do no wrong. And I absolutely love her work. This is a phenomenal fragrance. I put it as my honorable mention for two reasons. Well, I considered one at least. One is that it's discontinued. I think there's a couple of other ones that are discontinued, but I considered that. And then the main reason, though, is because I'm not sure I can call this an iris-based fragrance. There are so many notes in this fragrance that I love, and that's why iris is in it, but I don't know that that's the main player. So I'm going to call that my honorable mention. It has to be mentioned, though, on this list somewhere. Honorable mention, and that is Lolita Lempicka. And the next category is Best Everyday Women's Perfume. And my choice is Omnia. It looks like Amethyste or Amethyste by Bvlgari, and that's also by one of my favorite, actually my favorite parfumer, which of course is the Grand Master Alberto Morillas. Phenomenal, and I love practically everything about this one, except for the fact that the bottle is a little quirky. It looks pretty. You can see it up here because this is the long version. I'll be putting in the picture of it, but the actual figuring out how to hold it and spray it is kind of different. So I don't know that I like that part of it, but as far as the smell, I think this would be a wonderful choice for someone who wanted to wear an iris fragrance a perfume specifically, kind of everyday, not worry about events or anything, and also within a very generous price point. For the money, it's a great choice. Okay, so best everyday men's. Now, there's going to be some booze here. And I really flirted with putting this one in a different category, but I'm going to stick with it. And that is, this is my top 10 after all, right? And you guys say that you appreciate the fact that, these are my choices. And so my choice for best men's everyday is Dior Homme. It is the proverbial game changer. I know. And by the way, any of its flankers. My favorite, which is why I chose this picture, my favorite is the Parfum, but it has many flankers and they're all wonderful and they all have iris in them. Dior Homme has a little bit too much of the makeup vibe for me, and I'll have to cue the booze there again. It really does. I'm not saying it's not phenomenal. Obviously, I'm not saying that because it's my best men's everyday fragrance for iris. And it smells wonderful. You're going to get a lot of compliments. It's just a little too much of the makeup vibe for me, but it's still wonderful. If I had to choose, I would clearly go with the Parfum. I love that one because it's got more of the leather. It's just got I just feel like the makeup quality is toned down a little bit to more my level in that one. But they're all wonderful. You probably either have it or know someone who has, or you've probably complimented someone and they said it was Dior Homme. It really is a fantastic fragrance. Okay, so the best unisex for me goes to a fragrance I recently reviewed, which is Atelier Iris Rebelle. Iris Rebelle is the kind of fragrance that is truly unisex, and it would be great to wear. When I think of this fragrance, I think of like a weekend getaway where you wear the same fragrance as your partner. This one just works well on men and women. I would love to have it. It's just a very nice choice, and my easy choice for best unisex. Okay, so the next category is best non-iris based fragrance, which could be the longest best title that I have. Best non-iris based fragrance. I really wanted this one to make it on here, but I can't say that it is an iris dominant fragrance or based fragrance, but it needs to be on here, which is it looks like Volutes, but I'm assuming it's Volutes. Or Volute. It's Volutes. I'll put that in post. Eau de Parfum by Diptyque. And that's a really, really nice one. I love how the iris mixes with the tobacco in that one. And I felt like it needed a home in this top 10 for me. That is probably, if I had to think of one house that I really want to know more about, that would be it. Actually, I don't know too much about Diptyque, and I'd like to know more. So that is a definite my choice for best non-iris based fragrance. All right, let's move on. Best men's niche. Now, we can go back and forth on, if you think the Guerlain is niche or, all right, some of these are kind of gray areas here, but my best men's niche, I consider the price point as well. And it is Florentine iris, which actually could be my favorite overall iris on this list. This is an iris that is truly to die for, and it's by Ermenegildo Zegna. And you know it because of the beautiful bottle. Now, it is pricey. That's like $250 or more. So that's why I include this as a niche release, because for me, it really comes down to money as well. This is my kind of expensive choice. It is discontinued, but this would be wonderful, though, if you wanted to really, really stand out from others, because a lot of people would not have anything from this house, and especially this particular one. So if you can get your hands on it, you should, if you can afford it. I can't, but I've sampled it and I absolutely loved it. Okay, so my next one is Best Women's Niche. This is another house, though, that is not associated with niche, but it's their Privé Collection. So trust me when I say that in terms of money, this is niche. And it is La Femme Nacre by Giorgio Armani. So again, you might not associate Giorgio Armani as a niche because it's not. It's more designer. But the Privé Collection is top-notch. And this one is just I mean, what can be said about it other than it's relatively hard to find? But and again, if you can afford it, this was absolutely a wonderful choice. Obviously, it goes without saying for both niche, you wouldn't want to blind buy. You'd want to sample them first because they are expensive. Okay, so the next one is Sexiest Men's. Now, for a lot of you, for all 38 of you who are watching this and have gotten this far, some of the men will say it's got to be Dior Homme. They'll say, how can you not put Dior Homme Intense or Parfum in the Sexiest Men's? It's sacrilegious. I almost did, but in the end, this is my top 10. So for Sexiest Men's, if I were to have a romantic night out and I wanted to wear an iris-based fragrance, I would definitely go with Uomo Intense by Valentino. Love, love, love this fragrance. I love the confidence about it. I love the vanilla, and I just love again, the same thing as I said earlier with the Parfum, which is the iris is just the makeup note is toned down enough, and I really, really like this one. And so for a romantic night out, that's what I would go with on the guy's side. Sexiest Women's is also an easy pick for me. It could be no other than Irish. There it is. There it is. There's my first Iris Ganache by Guerlain. This is just a positively wonderful gourmand and iris mix. So a gourmand, as you know, is food-like. And so this one is, think of just a very delicious, mouth-watering dessert. Add some cherry to it, and then on top of it, iris. I mean, it's just sublime. And so I would go with my Sexiest Women's, has to be Iris Ganache. Finally, in the last category, I'm going to go with my personal favorites, and that they're both from the same house, actually, which is Prada. So let's talk about that a little bit. When it comes to the women's side, I'm going to go with Infusion d'Iris. I love that one, and they have many flankers, and both of these do. They have flankers, and they are all with iris. And so you could choose any of them, but I chose the originals, which is Infusion d'Iris by Prada. Absolutely love that one on the women's side. And on the men's side, I have to say, I did debate a little bit between L'Homme and L'Homme Intense, along with Infusion d'Homme. And so I went with L'Homme as my choice, and I'll tell you why. When it comes to Infusion d'Homme, it's definitely great. I just feel like it's a little on the feminine side, just a little bit. And what I like L'Homme is that it's just a little bit more on the masculine side. It's still clean, it's still soapy, but that's why I like Prada fragrances. I love Prada because they're they own the market when it comes to luxurious soap smells, and this is no exception. So the men's side would be L'Homme, and that is the original, and then L'Homme Intense is a little darker, and so I would prefer that one during the night. But you already know that which one I would choose, which is the Uomo Intense by Valentino. So I guess the perfect day would be L'Homme by Prada during the day in the office. It's a wonderful office scent. It's what I would wear, actually, if I wanted to wear an iris-based fragrance in the office. And then at night, I would put on Uomo Intense by Valentino, and that would be pretty much a phenomenal day. And then if I ever got my hands on the Florentine iris, I'd probably just start crying. So there you have it, folks. That's my top 10 with an honorable mention. I really want to thank again Elin. Very kind of you to suggest this. And for all of you watching, if you have any other ideas that you'd like to know about, any top 10s or any ideas you want me to explore, please let me know in comments. I really appreciate this. It's a lot of fun to do, and I hope you're doing well during these crazy times that we are in. And always remember, fragrance marks the celebration of today. Take care, everybody. All right, so welcome to the bonus feature. If you follow my channel, you probably know that I have a hard time saying iris, and I always say Irish. So you probably thought that the bonus feature was going to be a bunch of bloopers, right, where I say Irish in the episode. I only said it once. That's not too bad. But what I wanted to do is to talk just a little bit about where I'm going from here with this note. There were 3 fragrances that really jumped out on all the iris lists that I looked at, like on Fragrantica and YouTube videos and stuff, or where people were saying, like, don't forget this one, or this one is absolutely amazing, or sad this didn't make it onto the list, or something like that. And there were 3 of them. I felt like I couldn't include them as honorable mentions because I've never smelled them, and so I've never smelled them, and so I couldn't include them even as an honorable mention, but I wanted to at least mention them here in the bonus feature as fragrances I would like to explore in the future and consider. And if I ever remade this list, maybe these 3 would make it on. The first one was Iris 39 by LABO. A lot of people really, there's a lot of love for that one, and I noticed it was on a lot of the lists, and I have not smelled it, so I can't speak to it, but I would like to smell that in the future. The second one was Iris. It looks like it's Poudre. I'll try to add the spelling, but it looks like, so it would be like Poudre, Iris Poudre. I don't know how to pronounce it. Iris Podrei by Frederic Malle, and that is a unisex fragrance. So you guys know Frederic Malle is the house where they bring in, they kind of flip it, right? They don't have an idea, then they bring in a parfumé and tell him or her what they want. They contract a famous parfumé and have them do their own creations. And so they're expensive, but people really like this house because they have extremely artistic releases. And apparently this is no exception. Again, I can't speak to it, but this one is one I would like to smell. Iris Podrei, Poudre, no idea how to pronounce that. And then last but not least, another one that made it on was Iris. It looks like Draguez, D-R-A, I think it's Draguez with an accent. I'll put it so you can see it, but it's by Lancôme. And that one's another one that people really spoke highly of. And these were the 3 that I wanted to mention as a bonus feature. Again, I can't speak to it, so I didn't want to put it as an honorable mention. But there you have it. Those are the 3 that I'm going to explore next, unless you guys have any that you'd like to add, because I would love to try ones that you recommend. Take care, everybody. Have a good week.